It all began with a man named Thomas who was driving home late from a business trip in Nevada. The road was completely empty, stretching across the desert for miles. It was close to midnight, and the sky was covered in thick, heavy clouds. Thomas had been driving for hours when he noticed a faint figure standing on the side of the road. At first, he thought it was a hitchhiker, so he slowed down a little to take a closer look. But as his headlights illuminated the figure, he realized it wasn't moving. The person was standing unnaturally still, facing away from the road. The figure wore a white dress and long black hair fell over its shoulders. Thomas rolled past slowly, but the moment he did, he felt something shift. The air inside his car grew colder, and when he looked in his rear view mirror, the figure was gone. He tried to shake it off, convincing himself it was exhaustion, but only minutes later, his radio began to hiss with static. The lights on his dashboard flickered, and then, from the back seat, he heard a low whisper, a voice so faint he thought it might have been his imagination. He turned around, but no one was there. The whisper came again, louder this time, like someone sitting right behind him, breathing on his neck. He slammed on the brakes, jumped out, and looked inside. The car was empty. Still trembling, he got back in and drove as fast as he could. When he finally made it to a gas station an hour later, he noticed something that froze his blood. His back window was covered in fingerprints, small, childlike handprints pressed all over the glass. The next story comes from a young couple, Rachel and Mike, who were driving through a forest highway in Oregon. They were coming home from a weekend trip when their car started to sputter. The fuel gauge was dropping fast, even though Mike had just filled the tank. The road was narrow and winding, surrounded by endless trees. No signal, no lights, and no other cars in sight. They eventually pulled over when the engine died completely. Mike got out to check under the hood while Rachel stayed inside, scrolling through her phone, hoping to catch even a single bar of service. That's when she heard the tapping. It was soft at first, just a light knock on her window. She looked up, expecting to see Mike, but he wasn't there. The sound came again from the other side this time. When she turned her head, she saw nothing but the reflection of the trees. Her heart was pounding as she reached for the lock button, but before she could press it, something moved just beyond the windshield. A shape, a tall, dark figure watching her from the tree line. She screamed Mike's name, and he came running back, panicked. He hadn't seen anyone, but the look of fear on her face was enough. They jumped back in the car, and as he tried to restart it, the figure began walking toward them. The car suddenly roared to life, even though Mike hadn't turned the key all the way. They sped off, not looking back. When they reached the next town, they stopped at a diner to calm down. That's when Mike noticed deep scratches on the back door of the car. Long, thin claw marks etched into the metal, as if something had tried to tear its way inside. The third story happened to a long-haul truck driver named Paul. He'd been on the road for 20 years and thought he'd seen everything until that night in Arizona. It was just past 2 a.m., and Paul was hauling freight down a stretch of highway known for strange disappearances. Locals called it the Devil's Mile. The road cut through desert land where no one lived for hundreds of miles. Paul was listening to old rock music when his headlights caught a man standing right in the center of the lane. He honked the horn, but the figure didn't move. As he got closer, the man turned his head, and that's when Paul saw it wasn't a man at all. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness. Paul swerved hard to avoid hitting it, and when he looked in his side mirror, the road was empty. His heart was racing as he grabbed the CB radio to call another driver nearby, but before he could speak, the radio came to life on its own. A voice, static, filled and broken, said his name. It wasn't a driver. It was something else. The voice repeated his name again and again until he ripped the cord from the dashboard. For the next 10 miles, his trailer lights flickered. He finally stopped at a rest area, too shaken to keep going. When he checked the back of his truck, the doors were covered in soot. Burned handprints smeared across the metal, as though something had been clinging to it while he drove. He reported it the next morning, and when the highway patrol came to look, they told him something chilling. A driver had vanished along that exact stretch 2 nights before, and the only thing they found was his truck still running with black handprints all over it. Paul never drove that route again. The last story is perhaps the most disturbing of all. A college student named Emily was driving cross-country to visit her family during winter break. She'd been on the road for nearly 12 hours and decided to take a shortcut through a lesser-known mountain highway. It was a mistake she'd never forget. Snow had begun to fall heavily, and the road twisted up through the mountains with barely any guardrails. The GPS signal kept cutting out, leaving her unsure if she was even on the right path. After another hour, her car's headlights reflected something lying in the middle of the road. It was a car seat, an empty child's car seat tipped on its side. She slowed down, confused and worried. She thought maybe there'd been an accident. She pulled over and got out to check. That's when she noticed footprints in the snow leading from the seat into the woods. She called out but got no answer, just the soft sound of wind through the trees. Then she heard something move. Branches snapping, snow crunching, and then silence. She quickly backed toward her car, but when she looked inside, she froze. The passenger seat door was open. She was sure she'd locked it. She ran back to the driver's side and got in, locking every door. Her hands were shaking as she started the car, but before she could drive off, something brushed against her window. A small handprint appeared in the frost, like that of a child's, followed by a second one. She threw the car into drive and sped away, heart-pounding. After nearly 20 minutes, she made it to a main road and stopped at a gas station, completely hysterical. The clerk calmed her down and went out to check her car, only to find several small footprints leading up to the passenger side, but none leading away. No one ever figured out what she encountered that night, and local police claimed there were no reports of missing children in the area. But truckers who drive that highway still say they sometimes see a car seat sitting by the roadside, always in a different spot, and sometimes if you slow down, you can hear faint crying in the distance. These stories remind us that highways hold more than just travelers. They hold memories, tragedies, and things we can't explain. People often think the scariest places are haunted houses or abandoned buildings, but the truth is, the open road can be just as terrifying. Because out there, surrounded by miles of darkness, no one can hear you scream for help. So the next time you're driving alone at night, keep your eyes on the road, but also on the mirrors. Watch the shadows just beyond your headlights. And if you see someone standing on the side of a deserted highway, don't stop, because not everyone out there is alive. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this terrifying journey, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another chilling story. Remember to drive safe, and whatever you do, never stop for the figures waiting on the side of the road at night.